What are you doing in there? Hey, folks. This is Steve. And Andy's right over there. And this is Evo. And I'm in my studio. And I'm so excited to be doing this chat with you guys. I get to see your questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And, as many of you know, the Stillness in Motion DVD came out yesterday, and we're all very excited about that. It was like giving birth. It took 3 years. I don't know what takes me so long. I just don't know what it is, but maybe because I savor it so much. And the DVD is from the show that we did at the Nokia in Los Angeles, the Club Nokia. And getting the DVD completed was relatively easy to edit the show because it only took a couple of weeks. But then after everything, I had this idea to create this long kind of tour diary that actually has a little bit of footage someplace from every place that we visited on the tour. And we were like, we had like 253 engagements or something. And we enjoy touring so much, and it's such a interesting lifestyle to be on tour. I always kind of wanted to share that. So with this Space Between the Notes, which is the name of the bonus footage that has all of these clips, you really can kind of get a feeling for what it's like to be on tour with the Vibe Band. And every single place that we went to was somehow represented in either a photo or a little snippet of video. And because I wasn't sure that I was going to do this until later, we didn't really capture things properly. So I had to collect every bit of, camera footage and pictures, photos from fans, some of you, and from YouTube, and from the guys in the band and the crew. And I compiled this gigantic infinity disc with all this stuff on it, and then put it in chronological order. And that in itself took months. And then I chopped it up, and I had a couple of guys helping me do a little bit of the editing, but pretty much chopped it all up and put it in this order, and just used the tools that I had available to create this tour diary. And it's really, I actually enjoyed doing it so much while I was doing it. And when you're doing things, sometimes you have to work within the parameters of a time frame. You're told, well, you only got an hour and a half, but I got to an hour and a half, and it just wasn't nearly enough. So I just completely did away with psychological time and built this extra bonus footage the way I really wanted to do it, without thinking of time. And it came out to be over 3.5 hours long. So it's really for you, the special ones who are really interested in that stuff. But as a result, there was some compromises, and some of those compromises were might have taken a little bit out of the show, because the show and the audio for the show, I couldn't put a 5.1 track because that eats up everything. And I only had 2 discs to work with, and they were DVD 10s. So it's still very good sounding PCM stereo, but unfortunately the disc doesn't have the 5.1. And I'm seeing a lot of comments about not having a Blu-ray. It would be nice to have a Blu-ray, but the market for this kind of thing is just not big enough to constitute the cost. But you never know what can happen. You never know what can come out. If you keep complaining about it, maybe somebody will hear and we can do it. Otherwise, it's really nice to be here. And I'm happy to take some questions.
That first one.
All right.
Guy named Samuel Practicali. He's from Italy.
Samuel, is it the Samuel that I know?
Yes.
All right. Hi, Samuel. Did you see yourself in the video yet? You're there.
Here's one question. Are there any particular moments, details, or little episodes from the new DVD, both the show and the space between the notes, that you are especially fond of or just happy about how they came out? You watched both of them.
Can people hear your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You know, there's a lot of fond memories. The whole tour is a fond memory, and I've learned to really appreciate and enjoy all aspects of it. So when you see me on the stage having a great time with the band, myself and the band also, we have a great time right before we get on stage, you know, and we really enjoy being together backstage before the show. And we enjoy doing sound checks so much, you know. You can see on the space between the notes, the sound checks are just wonderful opportunities to just play. There's some snippets that I put on the space between the notes of sound check jams, which the sound check jams are fantastic because we just show up and everybody's ready and I walk in and we just play. And I don't know what's going to come out a lot of times. Most of the time, I never know. Nobody knows. And we just go with it. And sometimes it's really on the mark, beautiful stuff. Sometimes it's crap. But I have hundreds, if not thousands, of sound check jams because I've been doing this for decades. And every now and then I take a piece of music, like The Moon and I was a sound check jam from years ago. And then there's the Evo experience, which is another part of it. I just enjoy that. And, you know, it's interesting because the space between the notes does not have any Evo footage, but I have Evo footage from the entire tour pretty much. And I edited it together, the choice snippets, and it came out to be an additional 40 minutes, and I just couldn't put it on. It was actually another 2 hours, but I edited it down to 40 minutes. And I was thinking, actually, Andy, I wanted to talk to you about this, maybe taking that Evo footage that I chopped and just, you know, maybe put it up on YouTube or something. It might be cool. So that's really enjoyable to sit and talk with the fans. And before I do Evo at the press, I do press. Maybe that's that's work. Talking to the press sometimes could be work, according to who's interviewing you. And then before that, you know, I'm out on the town a little bit during the day. I go out, I look for culture, you know, I look to feel and to smell and to taste the culture that I'm in a little bit, because that's very rewarding, the diversity. I would say the diversity of the different places that I go is the highlight for me. If I had to point to one thing, just seeing the diversity in the people, the way they look, their culture, the food, the air, the architecture, you know, there's just so much diversity in all of these places that we go. On the last tour, we were in, we did America twice, we did Europe twice, Eastern Europe, we were in China twice, we did Russia like 4 or 5 times, we were in Australia. I mean, look at the map in there. It's pretty extensive. And it's just so extraordinary to see the phenomenal diversity around the world. And I relish that. A lot of, I think a lot of, if I was to try to point out the core problems in the world, it's because of the lack of the appreciation for the diversity. Actually, that's what it is, because most people are trying to, I mean, whenever there's turmoil, there's always some kind of desire to change the other person. And when you just accept everybody, it's easier. So, and then there's just traveling on the bus with the band. I love airports. Airports are great places to people watch. You know, you just sit and watch people, and and they're nice places to relax. I love long plane flights because nobody can get to me, and I can just sit and just look around if I want, not have to do anything. Or listen to music. It's a good opportunity to listen to music and read a book, although I don't read very much. I listen to books or write something. So I really like all the aspects of touring. I'm not on a time limit here, so I'm going to talk as much as I want.
Here's a question.
All right.
From
Thank you,
Jones.
Samuel. It's always nice to see you on tour, too.
It's a question from Jones. Having seen almost, if not all, the world, do you find a common thread among the people? Not necessarily the leaders of politics, but the people.
Well, your perspective and perception of the people you meet is based on your own, well, what you see in other people is based on your own perspective. Everybody has different facets of their personality. So, and you can verify this when you meet somebody that's pulls a weird kind of frequency out of you, you know, maybe anger or frustration or something, or somebody that is very uplifting. It brings that out of you. It brings that part of you to the forefront. And everybody has that. There's a wide range of emotional vibrations, so to speak, in everybody. And they cover the gamut of unhappy, frustrated, miserable, to very happy, content, interesting, enjoyable. So however you approach somebody, that's the side of them you'll get out. They'll offer. Not all the time, obviously, but most of the time. And if you just stick with it, they'll come around. You will be an inspiration for them to be a part of who they are. That's higher if you meet them at a higher place. So when I'm traveling and I'm meeting people, they're the same. Everybody in one level is in that perspective that everybody has in them the ability and of huge array of emotional expressions. In that respect, everybody's the same. The difference is how they will allow you to get in, how they allow you to get close to them, so to speak. Because in some places of the world, you can look very, very different than them. And if their conditioning is rigid, what I mean by that is if there's a religious conditioning that's very rigid and maybe very fundamental, or a political conditioning, or artistic conditioning even, you know, they will have a very strong opinion of you before you say any word to them. So it's always it's an interesting experiment that I try. And what I try to do is I know that when I meet people, they can create an identity for you right off the bat. So I just try to allow them to be who they are, and you kind of can feel them lightening up and feeling there's like a gratitude there because they don't have to work so hard in being who they are. But really, the people are the same all around the world in that respect. The thing that differs is just their cultural sensibilities. You know, like, I don't know why the people in Australia are as charming as they are. They just are. They tolerate tourists so nicely. They're just kind people. They're always willing to help in anything you're doing, you know. Or you go to a place like China, where there's still all the same kinds of personality traits, but the culture is so different that you need to understand a little bit. Certain things you say or certain actions, it's taken me decades to understand the little nuances of cultural conditioning. Like, for instance, it didn't dawn on me until maybe 10 years ago, which when you're touring for 35 years, 10 years ago is like yesterday almost. I was in, where was I? I was in France. And there's always, back in the 80s when I first started touring, there was always kind of, the French had a reputation of being a little, sometimes a little put offish. And, I think that a lot of it has to do with the perspective of Americans being very arrogant, which can be the case. And I realized in this one experience that I had, I didn't realize how my cultural conditioning gave them the impression that I was very arrogant, because I saw this arrogant in this experience that happened. I walked into this chocolate shop, and I just walked up to the guy and I said, can you tell me how to get to so and so? And the guy just like shakes his head and looks at me and goes, and good afternoon to you too. And I realized at that moment that to just barge in on this culture like that and just make a demand without a greeting, something as simple as a greeting, gave this person the impression of me being very bullish and very arrogant. And from his perspective, yes. And this is the perspective of most Americans, because we don't understand the new cultural nuances. And I was talking to a friend, I was talking to Pia, my wife, who is unbelievably cultured. She understands these nuances all around the world. And I said, well, that guy was just, I just walked in there and he just didn't want to help me. He was like, being just kind of rude and everything. And he goes, well, she says, well, what did you say when you saw him? And I just said, hey, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, look, if you notice when you go around in France, especially, just listen and you'll see that everybody that greets somebody else, usually it starts with bonjour, and it's just like a hello, and it's just an opening. And then the other person, and I started noticing this, they always say bonjour back. And so now there's this meeting, and then you say or do what you need. And then when you're done, they always say, merci, au revoir. They say thank you and goodbye, and they mean it. And this is a very charming kind of way to be social in a city. And then this, belligerent American comes running in, hey, can you tell me what time it is? Or can I tell me how to get to the whatever? So I could see why this guy was so fed up with me. And like magic, I just started applying this simple little cultural nuance by meeting people and just saying, bonjour, and shaking, or not, whatever. And then they would just look at me and go, bonjour. And then it was all good from there. And then when you leave, so things like that I learned a lot about when traveling, and the dynamics, people's emotional dynamics around the world are so conditioned by most of the time. It's very conditioned by the political atmosphere, the political dynamic, or a heavy religious dynamic, So you got to know how to navigate in and out of that too.
Okay, next question. This is coming from Anita in Barcelona. She says, hello, Steve. How are you?
Very good.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Hola.
Barcelona. I'm going to be in Barcelona next month.
That's right. After classes.
That's right. Mallorca and Barcelona.
Yeah, Anita says, Stillness in Motion is amazing. It's a perfect summary of the Story of Life tour where I had the most special experiences in my life. First of all, I'd like to thank you. And then she says, I have a question. My plan is to be a supportive manager in the music business. What is the best way to get into this job? Where can I find open doors for that dream? What steps to make it real?
Oh, good question. Okay, one second. Say, Greg, can you just grab me a bottle of water from the refrigerator? Thanks. Sorry. Okay, so you want to be a manager. I think that's a wonderful job. Everything in this business or any business, the quality is going to be based on the quality of your attention to it. you know? So if you wanted to be a rock and roll manager or a manager for a band, it's probably because you already feel, thanks buddy, you already feel some kind of interest or, you know, excitement in the idea of managing. And if that resonates with you, being a manager could be a very fulfilling job. You work with bands, you help them to find their, you know, their note, you help them to find their path, you organize things for them so they can build their career. It's exciting and it's interesting, and you can work with them to try to find out what it is that their goals are, their plans, you know, their dreams. And then you build a plan to get there, and you break it down into little steps, and you work together, you create a mastermind, you know, and you work to take every one of those steps. Every time you accomplish one little step, you treat it like a victory. You know, you make the band feel like they've really accomplished something, even though it's just one step along the way. There's a great financial adherence to attention. You know, you have to understand the various ways that a musician or a band makes income and how to organize that income and make the most out of it. And these days there's plenty of avenues for that. You just got to keep an open sort of vortex for it and your radar, you know. And you know, the thing about being a manager that's most important is your people skills, your ability to relate to people and to work with them to make every situation a win-win. Now, there's going to be compromises all the time, and I will guarantee you that in this business, especially as a manager, there's people that you will work with in your first year that you will work with or meet up again with at some point through your career, maybe multiple times. So you want to remember that because there's always going to be people that are going to be needing things from you and that you're going to be needing things from. And you want to develop sincere relationships with these people, even crazies, because there's a lot of, you know, you'll find there's some people they're greedy and they're a little unconscious and they burn bridges. But if you're not doing that, you will not meet many of those people. You know, if you're keeping your vibration higher, you're going to meet people and you'll be able to feel these people out. But you always want to have a win-win situation when you're negotiating. And you always want to keep an eye out for new technologies and new things that can advance, can evolve your band's or your artist's ability to be creative and to bring their music into the world in a powerful, effective, penetrating way. Because the artists don't have time to think about that stuff. You know, they need to focus on the music, and there's many different kinds of artists. Some will have a sort of an instinct on business and art and things like that, but most of the time they're just interested in the little black dots. So I don't know if that answers your question, but maybe those are some of the things you'll come across as a manager. But how do you get into it? Well, start studying other managers. If you're completely new, start working with or start reading about other managers and try to work with all managers. Most managers need free help because it's a lot of work. As a matter of fact, in the, I forget, it was maybe 1992 or something, when I hired my first manager. And before that, all the bands I was with already had managers. And I'm kind of hands-on, so I always managed myself to a degree, but it got too much. I didn't want to deal with so much of the things that a manager has to deal with, putting tours on, negotiating deals, and whatever. So, what's that? Okay. So, I thought I had to go. So the thing that's when it comes to getting experience, if you work with another manager, you'll get it. And as I was saying, I hired my first manager back in 93 or 4, 2 or I don't remember. But they had an intern that was working with them. And it was a wonderful young girl named was Ruta Cepetis. And I was doing a lot of my work with her. She was so attentive to details. She really understood the managerial position, but she was an intern, so she was just learning. Well, I eventually stopped working with the managers I hired and hired Ruta to be my manager. And she was my manager for 21 years. And it was a glorious, amazing relationship. It would still be if she didn't write all these hit books, because she started writing these wonderful, amazing books. Between Shades of Grey was one of them, Out of the Easy, and they just exploded. So she really couldn't, continue managing. But there's a beautiful story of somebody that went into the music business knowing, I want to be a manager. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to resonate with. I'm aligning myself with being a manager. Okay, that's the most important thing. That's the advice I would give you or anybody for anything that they're interested in doing in any business. You align yourself with your decision, because frankly, it doesn't matter what you decide to do. What matters is how you align yourself with your decision. So you may be like, well, should I be a manager or should I be a publishing mogul? Okay. Or should I be an attorney, a music attorney, or should I be, a road manager? These kinds of things, there's similarities, but whatever you choose, just allow yourself to decide that that's what I chose and that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to align myself with. Because if you don't align yourself with it, and what I mean by that, not aligning yourself with your decision, what I mean by that is as you go into your quasi decision of being a manager, things are going to be challenged. You're going to come across challenges. That's just natural in anything. But the way that you're going to be able to take on these challenges and the quality of the result of the challenge is going to be based on your alignment with your decision. So for instance, if you decide to be a manager and all of a sudden the heat is on, your band is fighting, you can't get them a record deal, or you're having trouble getting them a record deal, pick something, write it down, because it'll happen. It's easy to start questioning your decision. Well, maybe I should have been a music attorney. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should have. Well, I got news for you. You'll feel that way in any of those situations, because every one of them has challenges. Do you see these challenges as something that's detrimental to your ability to create solutions? Or do you see these challenges as opportunities to find solutions? If you create this mentality that this is a challenge and I am going to find a solution because I know there's a solution, of course, I can tell you that right now, that any challenge you come across, there's not only one solution, there's probably dozens, but they're just off your radar because you're not aligning. And the way you would align is, okay, this is a challenge, but I don't know what the solution is, but I know it's there, and I'm just going to keep my radar out, and and those answers come then because you're allowing them, and they come in any way. They can come as a thought in your head. They can come as something you see, something that somebody says to you. The universe is infinite. It can give you. It's constantly giving us answers for what we're asking. We just don't see them. So what I would recommend is, when you're looking at something like the music business, which has vast different outlets of expression, publishing, managing, engineering, writing, recording. Oh, there's so much. It's so great, you know. You go through in your head these different aspects, and then you think, what feels good to me? What kind of makes me have that feeling of I'd really like to do. I'd like to do that. And what do you come across that gives you the least resistance inside? And resistance is just the feeling of, oh, but I can't do that, or that'll be too hard, or I won't be accepted at that, whatever it is. So when you find it, let's say it's a manager, you decided that you want to be a manager, just completely align yourself with that and don't worry about the other stuff anymore, because it'll drive you crazy, because you'll always be second guessing yourself. And if you did choose something else, you'd probably be second guessing yourself too. So stay aligned and always look for things that make you feel good about managing, you know, and that's my best advice. And work with people who are already there. Read about them, ask them as many questions as you can, do things for them as maybe an intern, and that's really how you learn. Now I'm gonna have my water.
I'll ask the next question. Michael from Orlando wants to know, well, he says this: the space between the notes is a massive undertaking, clearly. It is amazing that you're sharing all of this with us.
Yeah.
Is there a moment that stands out as the funniest moment when you think back on the tour?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the really funny moments weren't, you know, the cameras weren't rolling, or the iPhones weren't rolling. And yes, the space between the notes was a massive undertaking of epic proportions for this little Italian from Long Island. And it was so joyous, though, because I had that vision, and that vision was so powerful that there was no way I wasn't going to do it, but it was, you know, I don't know, to say 15 hours a day wouldn't even be accurate, because I would just work until I couldn't stand it anymore and then go to sleep and work around the clock, you know, in chunks. But the reason why I couldn't not stop was because I was enjoying it so much, finding all these little snippets and then getting an idea and saying, oh, I think I'll, like, for instance, the thing in Italy where we had the guy get on the stage and propose to his girlfriend. Nobody knew anything about what was going to happen there. And we just happened to have been sound checking and doing The Moon and I, and somebody came to me and said, this is a young man that wants to propose to his girlfriend. And that happens, it's happened a bunch of times in my career. And I said, sure, it's happened during shows. So I said, sure, come on up, you know, that'd be really, really charming. And I didn't know that he had written, you know, he was going to sing her The Moon and I. We just happened to have been playing The Moon and I. And she had no idea. And the way that he kind of messed up the lyrics a little bit, it was so charming. I couldn't stand it, you know, it's so great. And he was just professing his love for her and pulls out the ring and he sings the song. And we just one little iPhone that just happened to have been off on the side that somebody was filming, and we got it. And then I worked on it to try to make it look as good as it could. And then I thought, well, it needs something, you know. And then I had the idea to go to the NASA website where you can get all this free footage of this extraordinary footage from the universe, with things like the formation of the moon and the animated geometry of the cosmos in action over billions of years. Where do you get that from? You know? So all this footage is available because, hey, we paid for it. We're the taxpayers. So I just took, but the idea, when the idea came to create this split screen with all this great moon footage and planetary universal dancing stars and the crashing of the waves, when I wrote that lyric, and the waves crash at our feet, the waves crash, the stars crash like waves at our feet. I think that's the lyric. Little did I pictured in my mind what it would be like dancing through the cosmos with the moon and the waves of stars just crashing at your feet, right? You're allowed to do that stuff when you're writing music or anything, right? But when I found my way to this website, and there it was, this animation basically that NASA had done of waves of stars crashing. For me, to the connection of the dots, the timing, the perfection of the lyric and the visual with this guy doing this, I don't know, it's just like, oh, that's so exciting to me, you know? And everything was like that. There was this funny, Pia and I were, you know, when Pia was on tour, we were just having so much fun, you know, and walking through the streets, and we were in, my God, Vienna. Vienna is such the bomb diggity, man. It's such a city. It's so beautiful. It's epic, you know? Yeah, where Thomas is from. And you walk around Vienna and you just like look at the architecture, and it's just phenomenal, right? And they're so liberal and open and just practical, down to earth people. There was this huge exhibit in the streets of a naked man, just beautiful Adonis type guy, just laying there with his, you know, with his penis hanging out and stuff. And it's right there in the giant billboard right in the middle of the city. And it's beautiful. You know, it was for an art exhibit. So I, you know, of course you're taking pictures of everything, but I got this picture of Pia by it. And I don't know, I just have this quirky sense of humor. And, you know, what I did with it was, you know, I put my face in it and stuff with Pia looking at the penis, like silly stuff like that. But the really fun stuff was the simple stuff, like being with fire and walking through the streets of Bratislava and finding like a really great little brasserie and the most perfect little dinner, and just being with my son, you know, and the band, you know, at times. But the funniest thing that ever happened, what's the funniest? I can't say. There's so much. You just hang out with Jeremy for 5 minutes and you'll just eventually see the funniest thing. You know? Okay.
We got, okay, here's a more of a, this is almost like a haiku. Hi, Steve. This is from Dave. You are my idol guitar for 30 years. I've met you many times. However, I would like to ask you in one word to describe the following bass players you have worked with. And he lists Billy Sheehan, T.M. Stevens, Scott Thune, Philip Bynoe, Tunes, and Philip Bynoe and Brian Bella. Thanks. He wants one word on each.
You're making me go against my nature. One word, Steve Vai, one word. All right, go through the list.
All right, we got Billy Sheehan.
Innovator.
TM.
Colorful.
Scott.
Brilliant.
Philip.
Musical.
And Brian.
Solid. But you can interchange all those words with all of them. But those are the first ones that came to mind.
Here's an interesting one. Someone wants to know, Ryan wants to know, one thing I've always wanted to know, Steve, what do you feel had the largest influence on how your mind now works? I know that's a broad question. I do genuinely mean anything from a book to a person that you have met. By changed how your mind works, I mean with how your perception of the world and everything in it has changed, and how you respond to situations and anything else. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you. Well, my mind works pretty much like anybody else's, I think, in that it's just attached to thoughts. Now, the thoughts are different. The thoughts that we all have are different. But usually the way my mind works, that I think is very similar to everybody's, is you get a thought and you focus on that thought, and then that thought makes you feel a certain way. That's what our emotions are. Emotions are basically the reaction to a thought. And then a thought exists in the mind. So this is, we're talking about how the mind works. There's a thought, and then all thoughts have almost like a magnetism to them, because they're like an energy A thought is like an energy, but picture it like an energy that has a magnetism to it. And what it pulls to it is like-minded thoughts. And that's, you can verify that. And that's how the mind works. You think a thought, it attracts like-minded thoughts. So if you're, I'll try to use it. Okay, let's say that I'll try to use it in our forum here. If you're a musician and you want to be able to play a particular song that you've been dying to play. Let's say it's a Led Zeppelin song, you know, or whatever, you know. You have the thought, and then I would like to do this. And then there's other thoughts that come, like maybe, do I have the instruments to do it? Do I have the, you know, and then that you'll think, do I have the right guitar? And then all of a sudden your guitar will, you'll start, that'll attract more thoughts. Well, what is the right guitar, you know, and that I want? And then that will lead to, you see, there's a, you follow a story, you follow a trail in your head of thoughts that are continually being created. And then it might lead to, and this is how the mind works, my mind, your mind, everybody's mind. And then what happens is you will eventually maybe find yourself sitting down and learning how to play this piece of music. And then any energy of a thought that you think's like, gee, this is really hard. Maybe it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And if you stay on that energy, that if that thought had a vibration, then you would eventually find yourself attracting more thoughts like that. And those are relatively, it's an insecure direction. This is harder than I thought. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Well, maybe there's something else I should be doing. So you see how the mind attracts like-minded thoughts? And the same thing applies if you're working in a positive direction. If the energy of your thoughts is of a higher vibration, such as, I'm really looking forward to being able to play this piece of music. I know I can do it, you know, and then you start feeling that I know I can do it. And then another thought comes that's like-minded to that thought. And it might be something like, I can't wait to play this live. I can't wait for people to play this for people. And then that has an energy to it. So you see the point. That's how my mind works, just like yours. Now, your question was, how has things may have changed for me the way my mind works? Nothing has changed the way my mind works, but the thing that has changed dramatically for me is identifying how my mind works and identifying the thoughts that I'm thinking. Because most of us, we're caught in the mind. We're caught in how the mind works. Our attention is so drawn into our thoughts that we think we're our thoughts. We think that the thoughts we're thinking is who we are. We take them very seriously. We take our thoughts very seriously. And there's no space in our mind because it's so filled with thoughts, and we're so addicted to having our attention completely immersed in thoughts that wherever those thoughts go, and sometimes they go very low. Most thoughts are repetitive. 99% of thought is repetitive, same thought, sometimes for years, decades, and based on things that had happened years ago that we created an identity for ourselves about, and then it becomes almost natural. The thoughts that we think, we don't even know we're thinking them because they become habitual and they become subconscious almost. So the thing that has really, I was always, through my whole life, I was always interested in esoteric principles, and at one point religions, and then metaphysics and spirituality. And like anything else, you search and you find things that make sense to you and you embrace them. And then you start realizing things about yourself that you didn't see before. And this is good. You know, it's very good if you don't beat up on yourself for the way you've been or the way you've been thinking, but instead take control of the kinds of thoughts you want to think and point them in a direction that just feels good, you know, and then let them pull you. They'll do it. The universe will do this. The law of attraction. It's just, you know, it'll just do the same thing and pull you in that direction. So the thing that was most valuable to me was when I started really studying these great spiritual speakers like Eckhart Tolle and Abraham Hicks and Wayne Dyer is very inspirational, and well, there's so many. I've got books of them in the other room, but these people, they don't teach religion, you know, as such. And you can even find it in religion if you look in the right direction. But they really, you know, like Buddhism, the Buddha, even Christ, when you read these things, or, you know, they're basically pointing to the fact that you're not your thoughts. You're the light that is shining on the thoughts. And that light is your consciousness. It's just consciousness without thought. That's who you really are. That's who we really are. It's so obvious because you're conscious, and the thoughts come into consciousness, and what you see in the world is seen through the eyes of the light of your consciousness. And when you get in touch with that consciousness, that's when you start realizing that you're whole. You have everything already. You always did. So this is what the biggest difference. I've learned to realize that I'm not my thoughts. My thoughts are a tool for creation. But unfortunately, when you buy into them and you think that that's who you are, you can suffer quite a lot, because most thinking is very negative. And it's just not true. It's true. It's true. Your thoughts are true, but they're relative, because everything is true. So, for instance, well, I don't want to get too esoteric, but if you can, okay, meditation can be extraordinarily helpful in realizing that what you are is not necessarily your thoughts. You're the light that shines on the thoughts. And because meditation is the process of stilling the mind of thoughts and just being aware, just being conscious without thought. And that's where all of the good stuff starts to happen. So that's what I focus on. And that was the biggest, oh, I know what I was going to say. You might notice something very interesting about yourself. I notice this about myself, and it has to do with the way we think, the way the mind works. And because I'm just like you in that respect, I know what you're thinking. So anyway, your thoughts, your beliefs, the beliefs we have in the world, any belief that you have, what is it? It's really just a thought. If you think about it, your beliefs are just thoughts in your head based on your own perspective. But when you think about them, the amount that you're attached to your thoughts, you start to believe that your thoughts are the truth. But everybody has different perspectives, and everybody's beliefs that are based on their thoughts are true to them. It's like, well, what are you talking about, Steve? This happened to me. This is, everybody agrees, this is the truth. Well, yeah, but what is it really? It's just thoughts people think that they cultivate into beliefs, and then those beliefs turn into truth, but everybody has different ones. Nobody has the same belief. Nobody. And on one level, it might seem like they do, but if you dig deeper, there's always something different in the way they believe it, and try to get them to change their belief. It just doesn't happen. They'll fight to the death, because that's what a belief, the rigidness of your belief is your ego. And to question somebody's belief, it's like killing them. It's like death. If you're proven wrong, it's like dying for some people. And so do you want that in your life? You know, no, I didn't. So that causes so much suffering in the world, not just for you, but in the world. So when you realize that they're just thoughts, your beliefs are just thoughts, you don't have to cherish your opinions. You don't have to cherish everything, and you can let it go. And you can have your opinions and you can have your beliefs, but you can also realize that your beliefs are thoughts, and your perspectives are changing, and you may change your beliefs in life. That happens all the time. And you can be easy with that. But what you get, most importantly, when you start to realize that you're not your own thoughts and that your beliefs are not that serious, but your presence is, and it's powerful and it's peaceful, what happens, the big miracle, is you start to accept others for their beliefs. You allow them to have their beliefs without criticizing them, judging them, or wanting to kill them. And because you don't have to prove anything to them, and you don't have to change them because you're not so attached to your own opinions. So this was the biggest, for me, that's the answer to the question. And by reading people like, Eckhart Tolle had a huge impact on me for that kind of way of thinking. And Krishnamurti, and even the core tenets, you don't have to throw away religion. You can do away with the fundamental beliefs that some people have that are so rigid. If they don't resonate with you, they only bring pain. Anything that excludes, anything that separates you, any belief that separates you from others is usually going to end up in a form of suffering for yourself, because human nature is not to be separate. Deep inside, it's to be one and to be together and to work in harmony. So there.
Here's a nice one from Richie Kotzen.
Oh, hey, Richie.
Really enjoying Stillness in Motion these last 2 days, and I hate to jump ahead, but the 20th anniversary Passion and Warfare teaser included in the package accomplished its purpose. So I have to ask, anything about it you can share yet?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to talk about it. After the Stillness in Motion, I was going. Thank you, Richie. It's good to. It's a thrill to know that you're interested enough to come and watch and be a part of this. Thank you. I wish you were here to be a part of it with me for everybody, but you are. So there you have it. Richie Kotzen, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Okay. So. My plan when I got off of the Stillness in Motion tour, the Story of Light tour, was to go right to work on a new studio record. And I had a whole plan and a whole vision for that. And it wasn't going to be the continuation of the Real Illusions. I wanted to do a record that's completely focused on intense guitar playing, the one that you've always wanted, but I never gave you. Maybe it was there a little bit with Alien Love Secrets. But this would be really very forensic, neurotic focus on all guitar, no vocals. But then after that, and then I was going to do a massive tour, and then after that, I was going to work on the 25th anniversary release of Passion and Warfare, which I had some great ideas for. But then it looked as though if I did that, I would end up not doing the 25th anniversary release, but it would be more like a 27th or 28th. And so I decided to do the Passion Warfare first. So that's what I'm working on right now, in the other room right now, and with my rig here. And I'm working on this. And what it is the package that I want to release for this 25th anniversary. It will have the remastered Passion and Warfare, because the technology at the time, there was no CDs. CDs weren't available when I released Passion and Warfare. I don't believe they were in the 90, So then when CDs came out, the digital domain came out, everything was transferred using pretty inferior converters and gear that just wasn't really like it is today. So if you go back and remaster analog tapes using contemporary gear, man, the sound is so much better. And that's it's probably one of my better sounding records. And So it will be completely remastered with contemporary standards by the great Bernie Grumman. I'm very excited about that. But then I wanted to add a disc in there. So there'll be 3 discs altogether. There'll be Passion and Warfare, there'll be this new disc, and then there's this little DVD, sort of stuff that from that period. So the new music, though, is music that I've recorded or written between Flexible and Passion and Warfare, because I was always constantly recording and writing. And if you listen to Flexible, the guy that wrote Flexible is seems completely different than the guy that wrote Passion and Warfare. So I ended up, hey, Fire,
Andy.
what are you doing, buddy?
Oh, just got back.
Okay, I'm doing an interview with the.
Oh.
You want to say hello to people? How many people we got?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Good, y'all.
It's Fire. Yeah.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
Well, in the digital flesh.
You
That
got
is.
your do hat on, brother.
That's right.
All right. So if you come back later, I have to go out tonight. But if you come back, we can do what you wanted to do.
How about we do it tomorrow and we'll just have some.
Tomorrow's a ridiculous day.
Oh, we're gonna.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just hit the ground running all day.
All right. Well,
I got to be. I'm doing KLOS in the morning. I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning to drive someplace and set up and play the guitar. What am I doing this for? To let everybody know about what you're here for right now. Anyway, so what are you doing?
I'm just hanging out now. But
Okay, well maybe later because I got to go out tonight. But I'd
No
like to.
worries.
We just need about 10 minutes and I'll show you what you want.
Okay.
You're wearing the old shirt that
That's right. That's right.
It's a good look for you.
I like it. Yeah. And plus you go.
That's right.
That's hot. Let's see. All right.
Fire Fight, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so where was I? Yeah. So when I listen to Flexible, if you listen to it, it's such a different record than Passion and Warfare. You know, it's like, what happened? It's like Ape Man, you know? So where's the Cro-Magnon guy? And this record is sort of like a missing link between those two guys. You know, this one has a little less hair and no tail. But in listening to this music, it was so wonderful back when I would do all this recording. It was very free. There was no agenda. You know, I wasn't doing it for a particular audience. And as such, I thought there's no place for this in the world. But, you know, you get a hankering for something. You just have to do it. So I started looking back at all this music I had, and I had a lot of tracks that I had recorded in between there with this great band that I had that I called The Classified. It had Tommy Mars, Stu Hamm, Sue Mathis, Chris Frazier on drums. And it was a really good band, and we did some really crazy music. And it sounds like what I would be doing in between Flexible and Passion and Warfare. So some of this stuff was tracked, and some of it had overdubs with a lot of instruments, and some of it was just never recorded, and some of it was never even performed. It was just written. So I made 15 slots, and each slot has probably about 5 or 6 songs that I'm trying to choose from to put together for this record. So it'll be an interesting record, and the working title is Modern Primitive. And seems apropos, Modern Primitive. So that's kind of what that record is going to be. And it's interesting to hear the way I played the guitar back then, and just what I was thinking. And then there'll be a disc that will have footage from around that period. There's some studio footage. Peel was always walking around with a camera. I had long curly hair, and I didn't have to do anything to make it look good. But it was a great time, you know, and there was just so much going on and such a creative period. And that's what I'll be working on. Then my plan is to do and I know I'm going to be asked about this, and I certainly hope I can pull it off, but a tour, a pretty extensive tour. I'm looking at 50 shows in America and 50 shows in Europe, but I think that's going to be it, where we play the entire Passion and Warfare record and a lot of stuff from Modern Primitive. And I have some other fun ideas for the tour that I better not mention. But so thanks for asking about that. I'm really excited about it. And then after that tour, that should be, I'm hoping to release that early next year, and then do a tour in the spring, maybe into the summer, and then go into the studio and do the record that I was talking about. And then do a huge tour on that. And then after that, I think I'm feeling now, although it can change, I'm going to slow down on touring. I'm not going to be doing the intensive touring that I have been because these guys are starting to complain a bit.
That parlays into our next question. You may know him as Kyle. He's got red hair, and his 17th birthday is on Friday.
Oh, he was at the camp
He's
last
one of your
year.
biggest fans.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah.
He wants to know if there's any particular techniques and
Hi,
such
Kyle.
that you you use to warm up your hands when on tour in the studio. He hears a lot of stories about people getting, playing too much and getting tendonitis or arthritis. He's wondering if you took any preventative measures since you seem perfectly fine handling grueling tour schedules.
Well, it's funny. In my earlier years, I didn't need to do anything. I was always hot. My fingers were always ready to go. Within 10 minutes, they'd be warmed up and just ready for the battlefield. And backstage, I'd have to be careful not to practice too much because I would start overplaying, Me? Overplay? Scratch that. Anyway, so I would, but then, as I got older, I wasn't practicing as intensely. I wasn't playing as intensely as I used to. And sometimes there's gaps of time where you don't play much, because I'm just doing other things, producing, recording keyboards or drums or something where I'm not, intensely focused on the guitar. And because of the high level of kind of technique I try to employ, it's almost like a language where you have to keep it up, So what I find if I don't play for a while and I go back to playing, there's some pain. Some pain is in the fingertips, which is the calluses, which is nothing to be alarmed about. You just gotta keep at it, and they'll harden up again. There's pains in the muscles of the hand, which, again, no panic. You just have to pace yourself and build up. And these days, I definitely have to pace myself. I have to build up to a tour, and then even on tour, there's a period of 3-4 weeks, a month, where I got to really be careful. I got to be careful because there's all these very intricate muscles in your hand that do all these millions of motions and stuff. And when you work these muscles out, like with barbells, the way you do it with your arms and stuff, they get sore and they need to repair. So you got to be friendly with. The pain is an indication. Now there's different kinds of pain, as you know. Fingertip pain, don't worry, grin and bear it. It'll be okay. Muscle pain, be careful. Let your muscles heal. Do other things. Imagine. You can get so much done by improving your technique by visualizing, just laying around and visualizing yourself playing and hearing yourself playing in your head and seeing yourself. That is the most powerful way to get better. Yep, there it is. It is. You visualize it because just a kickback to what I was talking about before, the way the mind works. It has thoughts. The next step after a thought is it becomes a visualization in your head. You can start seeing it in your head, your thought. And the more you cultivate that, you're bringing it into the world. You're creating, you're manifesting thoughts that's in the world by the visualization. So there's thought, there's the visualization, then there's the manifestation. This is talked about in spiritual circles and science. You can find this is the core teaching of quantum physics, basically. The thoughts come out of infinite potentiality. They arise in your head as thoughts, then they become visions, and then those visions become real in the world. So how does this relate to what the question was? The hands. Okay, so God knows the tangent I went off on there. But anyway, so you've got your hands and you want to be sensitive to them and friendly with them. And if they're sore, you want to let them repair and do other things. That's right, yeah. And try visualizing. You don't need any fingers for that, and it's very powerful. So then I've noticed that when I get on tour, it's just different. You know, I can sit in the studio and practice, and play all day, but when I get on tour, it's like a battlefield. You know, there's just, everything is different, you know, and you find muscles in your neck and that you didn't even know you had, you know, or in your back or in your legs. And for weeks I'll be limping for a while or something, you know, and then all of a sudden you just it starts coming together and the fingers just start blossoming, you know, and then it's like I just become bulletproof, it feels like. But even it gets so sensitive, even if there's a couple of days off, and they're repairing, it takes time to even get back. So usually after 4 weeks on tour, I really the mojo just starts flowing. On this tour, it took longer because there was such a long time in between tours. So the Nokia, the show, the DVD, I think there's some nice moments. I really do. I think there's some nice moments. Is it my best playing? No, because the best playing really started to happen around shows 200, you know, and 300 or whatever it was. Now there's moments even in the first show where there's always some kind of new plateau that's reached. Okay, but then there's something that's different than normal muscle pain and callus pain, and that's your carpal tunnel. It's the very delicate muscles that run down. I mean, if you go like this, if you see, it's all this stuff is moving here, because that's the thing that carries the muscles that go to your fingers. And those muscles are in this little sheath. And if that sheath gets swollen or tight, you feel this carpal tunnel. And it's a sharp pain in your wrist. And I've had that, and I've suffered at times from it. And this is when you can't be stubborn. You have to really chillax. You know, you have to relax and you have to let that go away. And this is a good indicator of maybe something you're doing wrong. And what I discovered, whenever I would start feeling that pain, I was trying too hard. You know, I was pushing too hard. You know, really being an elegant player and playing something that looks effortless, you have to think effortless. You have to think easy, smooth. It doesn't mean it's not intense. You can't really be intense unless you're relaxed. I know that sounds like a paradox. Maybe it is, but it's really not. Because, well, here's an analogy. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but they say people in car accidents that are actually inebriated suffer less injuries because they're just, so they flow with whatever happens. And you can feel whenever there's tension in anything, when the tension is resistance, it's going to make things, you can't move, you can't flow. So one of the things that I really discovered deeply on this tour was relaxing, like really relaxing when you're playing. And that's when all of a sudden there'd be this flow, and everything between the fingers, the body would just start to come together. So when I started with this carpal tunnel, you have to be you're forced. It's almost like the universe saying, look, you've discovered that relaxing is the thing that works, but you're not doing it. So here's a little something to make you have to relax by, you know, because I just cannot play when that is happening. I have to relax. And then I realized the more I relax my hands, the easier it is to play and the more notes come out. So for me, my practice as an entertainer and a performer is finding that sweet spot of being completely connected with the instrument, mentally connected with the note, with no thought, just awareness, and being in a state of complete relaxation, but absolute control. It's not even, at that point, you're not even doing the control. It just happens. and there's this allowance, and then there's this flow, this beautiful flow. And you know when you're in it, and you know when you're out of it. When you're out of it, the thing that pulls you out is just your own thoughts, those thoughts I was talking about, the way your mind works. You have to circumnavigate through the way your mind works by denying the ability to run off into stories of thoughts that have no place on the stage. You know, the only place that you should be on a stage is completely relaxed and utterly in tune without thinking. Thought will come when it's necessary, and it'll be inspired thought. But you just keep an awareness with your ears, with everything, all your senses, and always bring yourself, maybe you're already there. You know, maybe a lot of people hearing this already get this, you know. But I'm continually trying to evolve, and I'm sharing with you the things that I'm getting that are really working here. This stuff is really working, you know, and that relaxation thing really works, you know. It's hard because you don't know how tense you are. You don't realize how tense you are, especially on a stage. You know, you just don't know it until you are really relaxed. And then you realize 3 seconds after you relax that you're tensed up again already because your mind went off into some realm. I'm just going to move this a little. The sun is kind of changing the direction here. So but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes to you. So the more you're able to relax and then bring yourself back to it, and bring yourself back, and bring yourself back, and bring yourself back without criticizing yourself because you're not there, which brings you out of it. I mean, if you find that you're totally tensed up and not relaxed, and you, shit, I'm such an asshole. Why can't I do this? I'm so tense. Why can't I relax? You're doing it. You're being tense just by your reaction. But if you say, okay, I see that I'm really tense, and I see the thoughts, how they took me away. Okay, go back to just focus on relaxing. You can't think when you're relaxing. And then you get in there again, and there's a clarity, there's an openness, there's inspiration just flows. There's no thinking. You just know it. It's just a connection. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I can't hear the kick drum. Well, what's wrong with that monitor guy? Didn't I tell him that I needed to hear the kick drum? You know, and then all of a sudden there's a tension and there's a thought, and you're creating a story, and it's attracting like-minded thoughts. And next thing you know, you're off. And you can find many things when you're performing or in life in general that will do this to you. Take your mind into a series of thoughts that are like a dark rabbit hole. But when you see that that's what's happening, you're no longer entirely invested in it. So when you have problem like serious carpal tunnel, obviously if it's chronic, you need to go get it checked out. And that's something I learned with Dave Roth that was really valuable to me, was don't mess around with your body. Well, sometimes. But what I'm saying is, if you feel something that's not right, go and get it checked out, or, you know, don't freak out, obviously, but don't ignore it if it's something, if your body keeps telling you something, especially your hands. And that has served me very well. Should we do something about that? I can't change that. Maybe if I move this up. Nope, that's not doing. I got this light right here. It doesn't bother me, but I guess if I'm moving, it does bother me. All right, how's that? Okay.
Here's a nice
It's
one.
getting a little hot in here.
Superjet113 on YouTube says, "This is so awesome. Thank you for all this great info, Steve. I will be at your next concert around the Las Vegas area. When is it again?"
Las Vegas? Wow. Interestingly enough, I was invited to perform at Rock in Rio in Las Vegas. I think it's May 8th, May 9th, with Sepultura. Now, Sepultura is, you know, maybe some of you don't know, but they're really great metal band, and I know the guys in the band, and they invited me to come and play a couple of songs with them. And I thought, yeah, any excuse I get to go to Vegas and play, and especially with Sepultura, I'm going to take it. And we're going to dismantle that place. It's going to be a freak show. I'm really excited about it. So yes, I will be in Vegas. I'm not sure where is it. Do you know, Andy? I never know these things.
We'll have it in a second.
Okay, we'll get the place, but it's Rock in Rio. It's the first time that they're bringing Rock in Rio, which is obviously a Rio, which I'm doing this year too. I'm doing Rock in Rio in September with an orchestra, 60-piece. That'll be fun. But they're bringing it to other states, other places around the world, and this is the first time, and it's huge. I mean, there's huge stars, celebrities playing. I think who's that little girl that I like? What's her name? Come on.
Ariana Grande?
No. She's really big. Shake It Off.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she's playing there. So it's, there's going to be a lot of teeny boppers and stuff. But there's some, obviously metal bands and stuff. So
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars, great band.
Here's one. Steve, what's on your iPod/iPhone as far as music goes?
Well, it's right in there. You want to go get it? A lot of times I hear stuff that my boys are listening to, and I get that because they've got great taste, and they're kind of out there on the cutting edge, leading edge of what people are doing and listen and creating. So it's not uncommon for me to kind of hear what they're working, what they're listening to. But usually I never go any place without the entire Tom Waits collection. My music, I like listening to my music. Devin Townsend, I have everything he's done. Zappa, I have a lot of classical stuff, contemporary classical. A lot of times I listen to audiobooks, and I enjoy that very much. You know what, Andy, maybe if we just if you take this stuff off and you create like a little, it's starting to get in my eyes. I listen to audiobooks, and right now I'm listening to this book by Reza Aslan. It's called Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus Christ. It's a whole different kind of a take on, he's a historian, and it's interesting to hear the beliefs or the writings of people who are writing about things from a historically researched standpoint. Okay, let me see. My playlists. I'll play you my play. Alan Holdsworth. I have everything. I never go any place without it, and I do listen to a lot of it. Animals as Leaders, new record is fantastic. Anthony and the Johnsons, Beach Boys. Beatles. I just recently completed my Bob Dylan catalog. I have every Bob Dylan record, and I take it with me. Paganini Caprices, Deftones, Devin Townsend, Eckhart Tolle, Asa-Pekka Salonen, Foster the People. That's a really great. No, that you got to bring it over here. Yeah. Sorry, folks. I said the sun is blaring. Try taking this stuff off. Okay. What else do I got? Frank Sinatra. The Four Seasons, because I saw that movie and the music was so good, I had to buy everything. Jeff Beck, Jeff Buckley, Joe Satriani, Kate Bush, Led Zeppelin, Leonard Cohen, Georgie Ligeti, Luciano Berio, Mangus Lindberg, total freak of nature, composer. Mahavishnu, Mahler, Meshuggah, Michael Jackson, got all that stuff, like his stuff. Portishead, Roy Orbison, Rush, a lot of Rush. Old blues from before the watered down blues. Oh yeah, that's great. Much better, right? Okay. Stravinsky, everything he's ever done. Varese, Velvet Underground, Wagner, and Webern. And that's just the playlists. Let's see what else I got here. AC/DC, just got completed the entire catalog. Amy Mann, Alice Cooper, I'm in the Ace. Oh, Alt J. Oh my God, I love that. that band is so great. Anush Shankar. Aphex Twins. Crazy stuff. That enough? Billy Joel, because my friend was in the band and I went to see the show, and every song was a hit, and I remembered it from my youth. Bob Marley. I mean, it's just so. Bruno Mars, Bruce Springsteen. Still only in the Bees. There's this cool band that I found, Cairo Knife Fight. Really cool band. They sound great. A lot of kind of compilations. Charles Mingus. Not a lot of jazz, but I got some Miles. Just Daft Punk. And then there's certain records that I put on here. There's this Daniel Gottardo, who's a guitar player from Italy. This young kid that just is he's phenomenal. I don't usually listen to instrumental guitar records. I know most people would think that that's what I listen to, but I usually don't. They have to be really extraordinary. And this kid is extraordinary. Dave Weiner. Anyway, that should give you an idea of what I'm up to. How's this working? Okay.
Got time for a couple more?
Yeah, I'm okay.
So someone says, Jamie Uhas from Drexel says, "Hi, Steve. Can I come over to jam with you one day?"
Come on right now. I got my guitar. My amp is hot.
And I thought maybe you could also talk a little bit about where we are right now.
Oh yeah, this is the Harmony Hut. And it's I've been jamming with Philip and Jeremy. They just come by and we just jam. This is my studio that I built, was completed about 2 years ago. There's 2 rooms to it. One is the control room and one is the playing room, which we're in right now. And it has a microphone booth. It has a little meditation room. It's got a bathroom, and it's got a machine room where all the machines go. And yeah, it's wonderful to have. I like staying at home and recording. Some people don't, but I prefer it. So, and I'm fortunate that I can do that. And it's easy to have people come over and jam.
Let's see. We got one here. Hey, Steve, I'm the guy who's working behind the live bootleg from Chile. I want to thank you for seeing my video. By the way, in that concert, I grabbed your arm during Answers by mistake. Sorry if I scared you.
I remember you. Does he have a question?
Well, he's just kind of piping it.
No. Well, thank you for coming to the concert. Thank you for grabbing my arm. Now give me my pick back.
Any chance of a live DVD with the different orchestras?
I have footage in the can. I probably have about 4 or so, maybe 5 records worth of orchestra music on the shelf that needs to be edited, mixed. It's a huge job. Eventually I'll get to that, but I have enough for maybe 1 DVD, and that was with the Evolution Orchestra from the last tour. We filmed the show in Romania when you can see a little bit of it on the space between the notes in Romania when I'm playing I'm Becoming and it's raining. The skies opened up and it just downpoured and it was beautiful. It's nice to play in the rain. Everybody completely, not everybody, a lot of people left because it was big outdoor and it was just too much because it was like pounding rain. But a lot of people just surrendered to the rain. And once they surrendered, their enthusiasm was as if I'd never seen anything like it before from people. Even more powerful than South America, which has probably the most exuberant fans as far as the way they express themselves. You know, I think everybody enjoys the concerts, but some places go a little crazier. So that show was filmed. I'm missing a chunk of it though, because it rained so hard that it took out the entire video and audio machinery for Angel Food, Pusa Road, and part of Taurus Bulba. So other than that, I have the whole concert with wet hands.
Please share, this is from Augusto Monkel. Steve, please share for beginners how to find their tone. How would you suggest beginners find their
Okay,
tone?
it's a good question. The best way to find your tone is to first imagine the kind of tone that you want. You know, maybe there's a tone that you're hearing from another artist that's really inspiring. There's a lot of great players that have great tones. Some of the people that well, there's so many, but I listen to people. If you listen to someone like Joe Walsh, his tone is just so amazing and beautiful, and or Alan Holdsworth, or I mean, there's many. So you can listen, and you take someone like Alan Holdsworth. It's vastly different than Stevie Ray Vaughan. So you can find a tone that somebody else is expressing that resonates with you. You might hear elements of what I do that you like, or you know, like what I do is so different than someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Everything is different about it. You know, maybe the notes, some of the notes, riffs and stuff I might teeter on blues now and then, but the tone is completely different. And so you kind of create a picture in your head what you want. That's really the first step. It will be colored by your own interests as you go along, because the tone is really just, it has to start in your head. Now, when you pick up the instrument and you start playing it, you're going to notice, and I wouldn't tell you that there's one way to do it. There's as many ways to do it as there are people who pick up the instrument. Sorry. So I think you could just hit that volume pedal a little bit. Okay, so like for instance, when you start playing, okay, so you got this big, beautiful, juicy tone in your head, but how do you get it out on your fingers? Well, you have to imagine that while you're playing, and there comes a time if you're just started to play the guitar, you really got to get just some chops under your fingers. You might come across exercises or scales or just riffs that you like. You know, I remember the first riff I ever played that I remember was Led Zeppelin, Since I've Been Loving You. And once I did that, I thought, wow, that's it. I can do that. I mean, it didn't sound like that. It probably sounded more like this. What did I do? I unplugged it. I know you're loving watching me play like this. But anyway, if you're starting out and that's really what you sound like, which is the way most beginners sound, what you're going to do, and I'll do this lefty because it's about the speed of it, you're going to hit a note and you're going to, and you ask yourself, does that sound like the tone that I was dreaming about, you know? And I can't do it anymore. So as you're playing, you start getting your chops. You're going to notice that anything that you do, anything you do differently with the things like the angle of the pick, where you pick it. I mean, hitting a note here with that kind of angle is different than that angle, and it's different than plucking or like that, or when you pick down here, that's different. So you start shaping. Many little things come into play that you're going to experiment with, like shaping where you're going to hit the note on the string, how hard you're holding the pick. That has a lot to do with the tone. How cleanly you're hitting the note. You know, are you hitting other strings? Are you hitting the note on a direction that's giving you the most body from the note? You hear the differences? See, when you pluck this way, it's much different than when you pluck that way. You can get any tone you want if you experiment. So don't be afraid of experimenting to find the tone that's right for you. And if you're using someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or somebody that has a very identifiable tone as a guide, that's fine. That's fine. You'll find yourself shifting in that. Maybe you'll watch videos of your heroes and kind of get something going. But don't be afraid to experiment with finding a tone that's in your head that doesn't sound like anything that you've heard before. And that's the ticket. That's really the fun. You're here to expand the universe, to add to what has been. And everything that has been is there to help you as a launching pad. And anything you do is going to be a launching pad for somebody else. And it doesn't matter if it's seen in the world as being successful or not. You're doing it. The universe knows you did it. Others pick up on it. I'm not going to get into that too much. But fool around with experimenting, and then you'll just start kind of hearing what sounds good, And your intonation is really important too. Like if you go to hit a note, that's the note you want. You don't want. So be aware while you're practicing and while you're playing, what can I do to I do this all the time, still continually, how to improve it. And it works. It works. It's interesting to me when people say, what else is there for you to accomplish? I mean, that's like saying, okay, the universe ends here, and you've reached the end of it. You've tapped out the potential of the universe. It doesn't work that way. You never finish it. You're never done. And you're never wrong. There's no mistakes because you're never done. So wherever you are right now is perfect. So be okay with where you're at and enjoy the process of developing your technique and your tone. Enjoy it. Look forward to it. Align yourself with it. Get excited. I can't wait to see what kind of tone comes out of my fingers. It may sound like hell right now, but I know that if I just listen carefully, and then you watch what happens, you'll hear something and it'll come out and you'll have expanded yourself. There's no end to that. It gets deeper and deeper. If you align yourself with it. So as far as your tone, what I would say is you can take that academic approach of first you have to get some chops. All this esoteric talk is fine and good, but it's after the fact. In the beginning, you just got to get your fingers moving and connecting with the instrument, and that just takes practice, practice, practice. And you got to practice, and you got to practice more. And align yourself with practicing. Okay, that's where the esoteric stuff works really well. Be excited about it. Those thoughts come in that may pull you back. Just identify them and navigate around them. Don't take them so seriously. And you'll see that what you're hearing is going to start to change coming out of your amp, and what you're hearing in your head is going to change. And a really great thing to do, I would recommend also, is to record everything you're playing. I'm sitting here right now and I've got this thing and this. I record usually every night when I'm done doing whatever I have to do. I come in the studio and I sit for an hour and I just play. Sometimes I have loops that I created and I record it. So you can imagine how many hours and hours and hours of noodling I've got on the infinity shelf, you know? And what I like to do is record something and then listen to it. And I recommend you try this. It's very revealing, because when you're listening, you can be critical. And when I say critical, I don't mean in a negative way, but in a constructive way. Listen to yourself and be constructive. And here's an example. Tonight or whenever, next time you play, you got an iPhone, whatever. I got tons of stuff I recorded on my, tons. And just record yourself playing anything. It's maybe a song you like, a riff, and then listen back to it. And when you're listening back, listen very carefully and see what you like, see the things that you like, and okay, I like that. There's something there. There's something there. Let me listen to that again. That's a nice direction. Well, what can I do with that? You see, I'm being friendly with myself, and you can be too. And then you hear something, you say, well, that sounds like hell. That was awful. What was I thinking there? Okay, so you can even use that as an opportunity to evolve your playing. Okay, that wasn't so inspired. Okay, all right. Well, why? Okay, well, maybe it's because it's out of tune. So now I got to be careful. Okay, so you can see that if you align yourself with listening to yourself back, you'll be able to navigate and improve yourself tremendously. But you have to align yourself. You know, if you listen to yourself and you just go, holy mackerel, I can't believe how bad I am. I suck. Nobody is going to like that. How can I be a guitar player? There's no way I want anybody to hear me play. Oh no, I suck. And I'll tell everybody when I see them, oh, I play guitar, but I really suck, or you become self-deprecating. You keep doing that and you'll become that. It'll just become your reality. You'll suck, and so be careful of that. It's okay to enjoy what you're doing, and it's okay to feel good about what you're doing, and it's okay to like your own music. I like my music more than anybody's music, and that's okay with me, and that can be okay with you. It should be that way. Why wouldn't you want to love what you do? Why wouldn't you want to love your own music? I love other music. I mean, I wish, when I listen to great artists, like my favorite being like Tom Waits, or if I'm listening to Stravinsky, I'm deeply inspired by them because they're so invested in their artistic vision. And that's where the inspiration comes. So anytime I'm able to create something based on my inspiration from them, not what they do, but finding my own, when you come out with something that feels unique to you, and it may not stack up as being great in the world, but that's okay. You have to enjoy it. Not everybody enjoys my music, and that's okay. You can't please it. There's people that don't like the Beatles, Tom Morello is one of them, and he'll tell you that. So, but cultivating a appreciation for the music that you make is very healthy. Now, there's a tipping point, obviously, where the ego loves to come in and say, not only do I like my music as much as more than anybody else, but it's better than everybody else. Okay, you see the different energy there between saying it's better, which is an outlandish statement, because nothing with music, nothing is better. It's just different. It's just the diversity that the universe provides, and it's providing it through you. So appreciate your own diversity and enjoy what you're doing because it came from you. And doing that, you can appreciate other people's creations also, even on the same level as you appreciate your own. I enjoy my music maybe more than most, but I enjoy others similarly. And there was a time where it's very easy to then convince yourself, because I enjoy my music the most, it's the best. But that is a thought that then becomes a belief, and it separates you. You see how it's separative. And that's what you just need to be careful of, because eventually you'll suffer for that, because your music isn't the best. It might be to some people, but unless everybody in the world says it's the best, which is impossible. It's not. It's just what you do, and you're allowed to enjoy it. So, and when you're finding your tone, and you're finding your sound, and you're experimenting with amps, and you're finding the notes in your head, be on the lookout for thoughts that are either telling you that you suck or you're the greatest, and just enjoy what you do, and simply. And as far as tone goes, there's a tremendous array of technology you can use, while the same way you're searching on which way you're going to hold the pick and how you're going to vibrate and all this stuff. You can fool around with gear. There's amp modeling. There's all sorts of plugins. There's regular gear. I just got these amps. I've been fooling around. See those over there? Joe Satriani loaned these to me. He came by the other day. We had a lovely dinner. And those are old, like 50, oh gosh, I forget the year, but they're in the 50s. They're twin Fender amps, deluxe amps. I'm actually not even sure.
Tweed.
They're Tweed. Well, they're very expensive, and they're really rich sounding and lovely. And they used to belong to Keith Richards. Now they're Joe's, and he's loaning them to me. And they're a whole new world for me. Experimenting with those is so much fun because it's completely different than any other amp I have. So it makes you have to fight these amps a lot more. There's not a lot of, they're not very forgiving, especially the way I play. I need a lot of forgiveness. But those amps will offer a tone that you just won't get anyplace else. And that's another way to work on your tone. Okay, that's enough about tone.
I got a nice one here. I saw that you're doing a concert with Joe Satriani and Animals as Leaders this summer in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It's a benefit for Cliff 3. Who is Cliff?
Cliff Coltrari was the record executive that worked at First Important Records Distribution when I was trying to find a distributor for Flexible. So this is how long we go back. And Cliff was just a real music guy, lover of music, especially guitar players. And he was the only one that responded out of all the labels and distributors I sent Flexible to, responded favorably. And he gave me this ridiculously good deal. And then it was Important Records was a distributor, and then they formed a label called Relativity. And so now they were signing artists as artists, not just to distribution deals, but to record deals. So I was always telling him about Joe, because at the time I started to kind of play with these big rock bands, but Joe was always, to me, the greatest guitar player. I could never figure out why he wasn't famous. You give it a little time, and truth be told. So I passed on the tapes, because Joe and I were always exchanging tapes, to Cliff, and Joe was signed to Relativity. And then, that's history, so then Relativity, and then, he released his music on it. I released mine. Passion and Warfare was a Relativity release. And then they started doing so well that Sony purchased Relativity. So that's how Joe and I became Sony artists. So, but Cliff was always this amazing personality, unlike anybody I ever met in the business. Really a lover of music. You could talk about guitar with him forever, and he's talk about tone and amplifiers. Right now he has this company called Destroy All Guitars, where he brokers really high-end guitars, handmade, and amplifiers, custom made by people who are just really passionate about finding their tone and offering it. So, but he was always so supportive to me and Joe, and all of his artists, allowing us to do whatever we wanted, pushing us to be even more creative, and supporting us with the releases. And there's nothing more comforting to an artist than being at a label that has people there that really get you, and want to do everything they can for you because they love the music and they love their job. And that was Cliff. But then Sony changed things up and we weren't working together for a while because we went to Epic. Sony moved us to Epic and blah blah blah. But Cliff was always there for us. And then he contracted this very strange, weird disease. It's an autoimmune disease that attacks your nerves, and it just starts eating away at your nerves. And and then there's all these other things that come along with it. So he works his ass off, but he can't quite, you know what I mean? He can't quite work enough. So Joe and I are privileged to be able to do these concerts to help him. And one of our concerts can help him for, as you've seen, for a couple of years at a time. And we're happy that he's here, that we can do a third concert for him, Joe and I will use any excuse to play together, but this is a really good cause. And we're very excited about doing this concert, and especially having Tosin and Animals as leaders. It's going to be very interesting because he's very different. I'm going to be interested to see him jam on Going Down or something like that. I'm sure he'll be very Tosin. Brilliant.
So
I'll try to get through some ones with short answers.
yeah, sure.
It's hard for me.
I enjoyed last year's Vi Academy, and I'm looking forward to coming back this year. It's all about the guitar, and you have special guests. Can you talk to us about a little bit of those things?
Yeah, I'd love to. It took me quite a while to decide to do these camps because I wanted to have something unique. And when I came across the idea of creating a theme, that gave me the confidence to do the camp. And last year's camps are basically broken into two parts. There's the jamming and the playing, which is always there. And one of the things I love doing, I got to jam with every camper, and I will this time too. And we created a theme, and it was the evolution of a song. So we talk about inspiration to write. We write a song, we copyright it, we show everybody how to start publishing companies. I have professionals come in. It was totally comprehensive. We recorded it. We had a whole John Connolly from DigiDesign there. We recorded, we mixed it. I had people come in, Ruta was there, and I had people come in and talk about the music business, showed people how to take their music, put it online, distribute it around the world, build marketing plans, all this great stuff. But then along with it, I had these amazing other musicians. I had Guthrie Govan, Skunk Baxter, and Vernon Reed, who were teaching classes. And at night, it was just a free-for-all crazy jam. A lot of guitar playing, too. And this year, I wanted to do something different. And I came up with the idea of doing a camp based on the guitar itself. Now, this is something that I've paid precious little attention to throughout my life. So it's going to be good for me, too. So we have some, on the one hand, we have these, wonderful, amazing artists that will be there teaching and playing. We have Eric Johnson and Sonny Landreth this year. And I'll be jamming with every camper. I say camper, but it's, this is happening in a 5-star resort in Vail, Colorado. You don't want to miss that. And then I have these people coming in that are experts about the guitar, because so many times we get a guitar, but we don't really know how it works, the guitar itself, like the body, what body woods are and what they sound like, because each kind of wood you use has a different tone quality, how that reacts with pickups, what pickups are. I've got Larry DiMarzio is going to be teaching a class on pickups. Larry DiMarzio, okay? He's greater in his field than I am in mine, for sure. He was the first one to create a replaceable pickup in the 70s. So you get to understand how pickups work, why they work, the electronics of a guitar. And then, I have Ibanez creating a guitar, and it's going to be videotaped, and the luthier will be there to talk about it. I've got Sterling Ball. I don't have him, but Sterling Ball is coming. and Sterling Ball is Ernie Ball strings. So you get to hear somebody talk about his extraordinary career, but about strings, why they are what they are, how they're wound, why they sound the way they do, what different windings sound like. And then I have somebody coming in that will be talking all about the necks. I tried to get Paul Reed Smith. He really wanted to do it. Can you imagine how cool it would be? But he was, he had something. He's going to be in Germany. He can't do it. So I have somebody from his team, though, coming down that's going to be talking about, his number one luthier, talking about like the things that we don't really, maybe we take for granted, like the fretboard, different kinds of fretboards, the sounds, the tone qualities of different fretboards, fret sizes, how they feel, what is scalloping, how do you complete class on how to set up your guitar, how to do the intonation. Most people don't even pay attention to the intonation. You have to know how to do the intonation. If you don't intonate your guitar, you're going to sound out of tune all the time. And it's always floating. So how you intonate, you're going to lessons on that. I mean, how to look at the neck of a guitar to see the condition of it, if there's any warps or bumps, or the tone quality, the relationship between the neck and the body. This was big for me. With Evo, it's why I use this guitar so much, is that it's unison, So all of these things will empower you when it comes time to make a decision on the kind of guitar you want and the sound that you might have in your head. Because if you say, well, this kind of wood has a warm type of a tone with a, so many descriptions for all the woods, it might inspire you to say, well, you know what, I would like that. And not that. So maybe I should look for a guitar with a maple body and a maple neck or a rosewood neck fretboard, So this empowers you to make a decision on the kind of instrument you want that's closer to the kind of tone that resonates with you. And it's Vail, Colorado. It's really beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that. And I really like being in the environment of the camp with all the people there that are just loving the instrument and sharing ideas and thoughts, and so much playing, and so it's turned out really good.
Here's another one that comes back to the Passion of Warfare 25th.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know, explain the process for you while recording Passion of Warfare. Any trials and errors?
Well, the process, it started years before, because I had started recording Passion and Warfare, and I just got off of Flexible, basically, and got all new equipment. I finally had a 24-track machine and a decent console, and I started to put things together. I knew what I wanted to do because the music was always bubbling under. I didn't really know what I was doing entirely. A lot of it was just using my ears and saying, no, that doesn't sound right, and I'm going to fool with it until it sounds right, until it sounds big or whatever, until it feels right. And when it didn't feel right, I didn't give up. I just realized there was another place to look. But then I joined Dave Roth's band, and I had to put it on the shelf for years. And then I joined Whitesnake, and I had to put it on the shelf. And I remember every time I had to put it on the shelf, I had to go back to Capitol Records and say, I can't deliver this record. And there was always somebody different there. The president was always different. But the second time I went back, Joe Smith was the president, and he said something to me that really resonated really hard. It was not something that no one else had said. And this is a president of a label. He said, I see what you're doing with these bands, and it's great. You're doing great. You're selling millions of records, and you're traveling all over the world, and you're doing great. But I see something else in Steve Vai, and I know it's there. And you can fool around with all this other stuff as long as you want. But the real musician that's in you has to come out. And I know it's there. I could see it. I've seen you play. I get it. And that's what you have. At some point, he put it a lot more. He said, at some point, you're going to stop all this shit, and you're going to start making the music that's really important to you. And I'm like, well, this music is important. He goes, yes, but it's not really you. And I'm like, how does he know this? It's something I always knew, but, you know, and that gave me that. Now, there was a record company executive that he was brilliant because he didn't try to tell me what to do. He just said, you need to find yourself, and whatever you give me is, if it's you, it's good. I'm not going to tell you who you should be, who you should sound like, the kind of music you should record, not you. Maybe some other people who can use that kind of, you know, but I want you to just go loose, you know? So that was really encouraging. So that stuck with me. And then eventually I said, you know what? Joe Smith is right. Here I go. And when I started to record Passion and Warfare, the thing that was so liberating was I had no expectations, meaning I wasn't doing it for an audience or for success. If that was the case, I would just be crazy. I'd go crazy because you'd be second guessing yourself constantly. Maybe there's people that say, this audience likes this, so I'm going to create something like this because I know they're going to like it. And because I know that music very well, this is what I'm doing. And then they churn out music that fits a genre, and that's fine. Some people do that very well. But then there's people that say, I don't hear in the world anything that I'm hearing in my head right now, but I'm doing it anyway. And because I don't really see it, there's probably no place for it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So it's kind of like saying nobody's going to hear your music, so you can do whatever you want and not care. And that's how I made Passion and Warfare. What I really cared about was continuing to feel like I was on that high-flying disc of excitement and discovery. How could you not be if you just record it for me? Something like Ballerina. And it's like, what is that? That's beautiful, you know? Or even Alien Water Kiss. It just sounds like noise, but to me, it's like, it's new. I never heard it. Is it great? I don't know. I don't care. It's none of my business if it's great. Even when I did For the Love of God, you know, I said that I love this. It's guitar, it's melody. It really makes me feel something, you know? Is it good? I had no idea. It wasn't any of my business if it was good or not. My business was that, is it exciting to me? And then when it comes out, and I had there was a lot of momentum. You know, I had the weight of the Attitude song from Guitar Player, the momentum of Crossroads, the momentum of Dave Roth, of Alcatraz, Whitesnake, all of these things. So I had a lot going for me. I really did. So when I released it, there was a group of people that, okay, what's going on here? But a lot of them that maybe were hoping for another Whitesnake record or something like that, maybe they didn't find an interest in it, but the ones that did like it, they were my authentic audience, you know, because it worked for them. And that's the kind of audience you want, people that respond to the thing that's exciting to you. Or else you're chasing a feather in the wind and you will end up becoming bored. You'll end up becoming miserable and bored. And even I've seen in many cases where people resent their fans for liking them. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true, because they're so unhappy with what they do because it's really deeply, they want to be doing something else, but they're afraid to because they might lose something. That when, you know, they can find a resentment in even being successful at the counterfeit thing that they're doing. It sounds bizarre, but you won't know it until you do it. Until you're making millions of dollars making music that you don't really like, you know. There's, you know, you realize that's not it. There's nothing wrong with the money, and you can even do it if you align yourself with it. So, and it's because I had that momentum. But when I released it, I thought, nobody's going to hear it, nobody's going to know. But luckily, I was wrong. And 25 years later, I'm still working on it. Now I'm putting another record in there, and I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying, I don't know if people are going to like it. I like it. this stuff I'm working on for this record is probably some of my favorite music I've ever done. It's just so quirky, and there's just an innocence in it that was that guy back then. And it's really nice. It's refreshing. And of course, I hope everybody likes it. You know, that's what I'm here for, to try to give you stuff. I mean, you know, but I can't let that stop me. The thought that they might not. And I'm really lucky because I don't have to worry about things like radio and doing things that most, you know, pop artists need to struggle to get, you know, so I'm pretty lucky because I got you.
Here's a quick one. Lead guitar tone, Steve. Is the distortion coming from your amp, or is it coming from the pedals?
Well, both. I mean, it's according to what I'm doing. But for instance, this is my normal. So as you can tell, it's kind of distorted. And then I have a distortion pedal that I kick in. It's a little more distorted now than usual because it's turned down and stuff. But and then I have a you don't have to kick it in. It's just more. And then there's a clean tone that I can pop in, you know. That's just clean. And then I have a distortion set up on my Gemini that's distorting the clean channel. So it's a totally clean channel with the distortion. And that's a different kind of a sound and distortion than, you know, the second channel. So there's all these variables. And so the normal tone is pretty distorted. And then I just add more distortion. Okay. What? You have a few more?
Yeah, I got another one.
What time is it, by the way? Whoa.
Excellent.
Boy, I do talk a lot.
Let's see. Okay. Any chance you might do some shows with Jeff Beck? I would love to see the two of you play together. I see similarities in the way you both approach your playing during your performances.
That hack? That's a joke. As far as I'm concerned, Jeff Beck is the chosen one. Yes, that's a good idea. I would love to. I suggest you call Jeff and ask him because he's the one that has to agree to do it. But yes, that would be a real treat. More than performing with him, I would like to sit in this room with him and just play for about 10 hours without stopping. Back to back, listening, moving, just feeling each other's ear, and just creating. That would be great, yeah. Will it ever happen? Don't know.
Here's one that involves exercise. Hello, Steve. Can you show us around your favorite guitars over the wall? We only have a chance to see them on your website, not live as we are. Or not live as we are. Thank you.
What is this? Can I unplug this?
I'll carry it with you. Here's one that involves exercise. Hello, Steve. Can
Well,
you
good,
show
'cause
us
I need to
around
listen
your
to the
favorite
question
guitars
now.
over the wall? We only have a chance to see them on your website, not live as we are.
Okay.
Or not live as we are.
All right.
What
Well,
is this? Can I unplug?
you gotta have to Hello, hello. Okay, great. Okay, there we go. Well, I did I kind of did a tour of the studio before with one of those guitar
Premier
sites, Premier Guitar, yeah. But the question was, what guitars are my favorites?
Yeah.
This right here, Evo. That's the one. And I've been really enjoying playing this one, which was a guitar that I had Ibanez made. I had this made, and also the you see the color, the seafoam green one. And this is like a powder blue, and I had to make a choice because I wanted to see both colors on which was going to be a production model, and I chose the seafoam green. But I really like the powder blue, so I think this might be eventually a production model gem. It's such a beautiful color. It's hard to see, but and it's got a maple neck, which has a nice snap to it. I got flow through, and then this rack of stuff is kind of this unique stuff. I just bought a new guitar recently. It's kind of cool. It's an 11-string guitar. It's by this company called Godin, and it's fretless. And the low string is single, and then it's got these doubled strings. And that's pretty cool. And I have just my little arsenal of things that I've grabbed here. And these are this is my favorite sounding 7-string. The one that I use on tour, the burnt one, is in Japan right now because they're trying to duplicate it. I won't say anything more. And then there's guitars on the walls. Really, a lot of the guitars I don't play because I just have them here because it's nice to have guitars around. And also, they a lot of times they're different. Some of them are different. Like for instance, if I need like there's usually the acoustics are in the other room. The basses are up against this wall here. But like I have a 4-reed Smith. Sometimes I'll use that for a couple little things. I've got this guitar here, which is a Tesco, which was a replica of the first guitar I ever owned. And everything is mostly Ibanez, but I have a Gretsch, the one that Andy found for me. And then the wall here is stuff that I might want access to. But a lot of it's for show, and it's just better having them hanging on the wall than sitting in a storage space in place. But over here is, if I'm looking for a variety, I might grab, like I recorded a song recently where I used this 335. Very hard guitar to play. It's not my natural. But I'm looking for a sound that's completely different than anything I've had before. I reached for some of these other kinds of guitars. This is my first real guitar back when I was a kid. This is pretty extensively refined. I just recently got this. I always wanted to have it. And this is, wait till check out this instrument. My friend Sterling Ball made me this guitar. And it's a 7-string sitar with these sympathetic strings. And it's pretty bizarre, to have a 7-string sitar with a whammy bar. And I've been fooling around with this with some alternate tunings. And that's fun. But really, is with all the variety of guitars, I just find myself grabbing Evo and playing. That's the one. But you see that guitar up there? The one with all the stickers? It says Bones. You see it? That was the very first gem. I had 5 of them made, before I met up with Ibanez. So that's how old, you can see the recessed trem, so you can pull up, you can see the pickup configuration, the cutaway. the handle, which wasn't quite a monkey grip at the time. All of the aspects of that guitar was what turned into the Gem. Because if you look at a Gem, it's exactly the same. But that's well over 30 years old. And then this is the effects. They're kind of in disarray right now because I've got them in the other room. That's what I always wanted. And they're all kind of like stomp boxes and stuff like that. And then there's the studio. You can watch the premiere guitar tour for all that. Okay, a few more questions and then I better get going. I've taken up a lot of your time. Hey Steve, was wondering what it was like recording Eat 'Em and Smile with David Lee Roth back in the day. It was pretty wild. I didn't know what I was getting into. When we were recording that record, we were very secluded. I didn't realize what was going on in the outside world or the outside rock guitar community because we were just in there. So we rehearsed a lot. Most of the time rehearsals were like jamming, cover songs that Dave liked to play. And then we'd come in with songs. I'd come in with the song and Dave would pretty much work on the lyric. And then we'd sometimes know them. And it was fun. It was work. We really worked, you know. And recording the record was great fun. And we worked really hard on that too. You know, you had to be there on time. You had to deliver. And you had to know how to party at the right time. The debauchery that is usually associated with rock star activities was not really prevalent in the recording process because it was work. You know, you write the songs, you feel them out, and then you record them. And then when we went into the studio with Ted Templeman, it was, you know, just laying the stuff down and then finishing the record. And it was different for me than my records, obviously, because I didn't have to do anything except play the guitar. But then when we got out of the studio and went out into the world where there were people who were buying the record and reacting to you being in the band, that was very different. That was wild. And I remember the first instant, this is a very funny story. I was still just doing my regular life. I was living in a little house in Sylmar. I was driving my Datsun truck, and you know, meanwhile, this Eat 'Em and Smile was just released, and it was like platinum in like a week or something. And I was still just doing what I was doing, and people were recognizing me from Crossroads because I was in a movie, and people just see you and they recognize you on the street sometimes. But the funniest thing was I would go to the gym, and I was leaving the gym once, and I'm walking, and you know, sometimes the gym attracts these guys that are jacked out on steroids, and they're really just like they're ready to tear your head off. You know what I mean? And I go into the parking lot, and there's this guy, and he's driving through the parking lot, a little reckless, and I didn't see him coming because he was driving reckless, and I was kind of whatever. And I get in his way, and he stops the car, and he's blasting this music out of his car, and it's Elephant Gun from the Bump and Grind. And I'm like, what is that music that I'm hearing? I'm walking through the parking lot. I'm like, what is it? Because it was loud. And I'm like, wait, I know that's me, you know? And all of a sudden I hear, and this guy who's listening to the music and grooving sticks his head out the window and goes, "Hey, you fucking asshole, get out of the way, dickhead." And then he just goes back to grooving on the song and driving away. I said, okay, this is what it's going to be like, you know? Some things will change, some things won't.
You know what? That reminds me of the story I read on the website once where we had a performance and there was a fight that almost broke out about who was better, you or this guy this other guy saw.
Oh, that happens. That happens sometimes. It's kind of funny. I remember once I was, Pia and I went to the movies, and we were waiting online, and there was these two guys in front of us, and they're arguing. One of them is saying, you know, oh, no, Steve Vai is the greatest, and the other guy is saying, what are you kidding? Van Halen kicks Vai's ass, and I'm just listening. I'm standing behind him, and I go to the guy that was a Steve Vai fan, and I go, I said to him, you know what you're talking about, man. Vai sucks. Vai sucks, man. You got the worst taste. And then I just go back, and the guy turns to me around and he goes, you know, he's like, fuck you. You know, it's like, and then it's like, and then they look at each other, and then it's just, you know, and then it's like, it's kind of funny. So, stuff like that happens sometimes. Vai sucks. You know what?
Okay. This was similar to the person asked. A lot of people saying beautiful guitars. Thank you for that special tour. Yeah. Maybe a real question here.
Good evening, Steve. Do you think you will ever work with David Lee Roth again? Who knows? Next question. What is your approach to improvisation? What do you actually think while you are improvising? Is it inclined more towards the technical side of playing, or do you try to put more thought on note selection? Well, when the good stuff happens, I'm not thinking. You know, you are in a... Now, that's a deceiving concept, because one might think, well, if you're not thinking, how do you know what to play? Good question. You don't know. You won't know the answer to that until you try to play without thinking. What I like to do is prepare, know the songs, know the music, and then just let it happen. And it's really about, for me, not thinking and using my ears, listening. Thinking is not listening. Listening is different. And when you're listening, you can allow things to come in, and you can instinctively know what to do. Now, I've prepared my vessel, you know, like my ears are tuned. If I hear something, I can respond pretty immediate. And that's what I do. You respond to what you hear without thinking. I don't. Now, there was a period, this is, you know, I'm talking, there was a period where I would hear something and say, well, what chord is that? What is that? And what should I do, you know? And then I'd fish around a little bit and find a note. And then I'd say, okay, well, that's a minor chord. Where's the scale? Okay, here's the scale. Okay, now I can do all this. That's one way of doing it, and that's a process. But really, that's very limiting, because you're just doing rote information. You're just kind of like, it's intellectual, and then you reach a point where your fingers have memory for what scales work, and then you go into your old regime of these riffs and those riffs and maybe a little something different here. And that has its place, you know. But the thing that usually invites uniqueness into your playing is when you're not trying to figure out what scale that's going to work, or you're not necessarily thinking, this is where I can do this riff that I always do, that I know really well. But you're listening, you're just intensely listening and not thinking, and just allowing what to come out to come out. Your ears know what to do if they're trained enough, you know, and even if they're not, they'll do something, you know, and you invest in that. You allow your fingers to kind of go without thinking. That's the best way to improvise for me. It's not knowing what's going to happen, or not knowing what you're going to play, and being okay with that. But you have to try it. And one of the things you can do is really cool thing you can try to do here is just everybody has something to record and play back. If you don't, get one. And if you have something with multiple tracks on it, this one's got like 4 tracks, and I make loops and stuff to play to. And sometimes there's a great thing you can try is if you just put on a drum machine or something and you just play a chord, any chord, don't even think about what it's going to be. Just, I don't know why I played that one, it just came out, but. And you let that ring out for a while, the groove, and you go to another chord. Then another one. Let all the notes, we're going to hear all the notes. I don't know, I'm just making up chords. Well, I'm not making them up, they're just happening. And then you do that for like a half an hour or even an hour. And then you play it back, and as it plays back, you just play. Now, you don't know what the chord is that's going to come up, which is a beautiful thing, because you're forced to use your ears to find out what to play. So you're in a state of having to listen. Now, if this chord comes by, and you might fish a little bit for the note, but okay, now what I just did there was a melody. That works beautifully over this chord. What scale is it? I wasn't thinking about the scale. I can tell you the scale, I can tell you the notes, I can tell you the chord, but I'm not thinking about any of it. I'm just listening in my head for a melody or something to play. And that was just finger movement. And a little bit of that now and then is fine, you know. And then when the next chord comes, you're going to be alert. You need to be alert and then find notes that work with that. And at first you might have to pick and to find the notes, you know, that work. But if you keep doing it, you're going to develop. You're going to develop your ears as opposed to just your fingers, and that's really where the good stuff comes from. That's where you can find the music that's in you that's unique, because finding the music that's in you that is unique and it is there is the process of being able to listen to it in your inner ear. I can't tell you how to do that. You just got to do it, you know, and it's different than knowing where to put your fingers. It's just very different. It's on the opposite end of the spectrum. Knowing where to put your fingers can help, but finding a melody in your head and having it just come out is a product of listening to it in your head and then having enough of a understanding of the real estate of the neck, the audible, interval real estate, where you don't have to think about what the note is going to sound like when you go to it, because you already know instinctively. There's no thinking. So, long answer again. I guess I enjoy this. That's why okay. Congratulate winner. Sean Thomas won my signed Axe Effects through Fractal Audio's giveaway. You're lucky. That's a great piece of gear. Is it this one that I have here? I didn't think I got the new ones yet.
No, yeah.
Is this it?
No, yeah, they're gonna get. I think Fractal's gonna send it out.
Okay, so you're going to get that right there. My Fractal, Sean Thomas. And I'll even leave all the presets in it. Because I'm getting... And how cool to win this. It's an incredible piece of gear. It's probably the most advanced, most powerful piece of audio gear for the studio or the guitar that I've ever come across. And Matt Picone, the inventor, is just this mad scientist, man. He's just genius. And it's the best sounding effect unit that I've ever used. I don't use it for its amp modeling usually. I do occasionally, but not live. It's all, and that's the foot switcher for it. But I'm not giving you that. Sorry. You'll have to figure out your own foot switching.
But congratulations. Do you want me to sign it? Would you like that? I don't have to if you want it clean, but if you can let us know, I'll sign it for you.
In your comment says, I love the glasses.
Oh, thank you. The other ones are just getting burnt out, huh? The big, and plus Andy said, when are you going to stop wearing those piped pants and those big Bono glasses? No, but I like switching up. Actually, Julian, my son, gave me these. And, you know, people say, why do you always wear glasses? Because I can't see. They're all prescription, and I can't wear contacts. And I'm not really crazy about the way glasses look, you know, reading glasses. So I try to spice it up a bit. They're kind of cool, yeah. You may be seeing a lot of them. And maybe not, because I usually have to buy a lot of pair, and they're very expensive because of all the, you know, special lenses you put in so I can see distance and then close up, because they're like three-way. But these were like a one-off, one of a kind that the company made. So I don't know if you can't go and buy them, and I don't even think I can buy them. I leave it to Julian, because Julian is funky, man. He wears the wildest shit. You should have seen when he was like 12, he discovered my wardrobe cases. And to this day, he still wears like old stage clothes. I see he'll come out of the basement with like a green fur, or, you know, and shoes this big, this high, you know. And he makes it work. It all works for him. All right, maybe one more?
Okay. Let's see, then let's look at the detail. Oh, here's this one. Hello, Steve. I want to thank you once more for the amazing moment we had in Osnabrück, Germany on stage. This is from Panagiotis. Your words to me were so very inspiring. I had a small talk with Fire, and he asked me what I like about you the most. But I really admire you as an artist, and I'm a guitarist trying to get into compositional studies. Do you have any advice for me?
Thomas, well, thank you for the kind words. Interested in getting into compositional studies? Yeah. If you're getting into compositional studies because it's really interesting to you, that's great. It's an amazing field that opens up almost like a Pandora's box of creativity. Because just like when I was talking about how you need to prepare your vessel by practicing to allow something deeper than just your intellectual knowledge come through, meaning you practice, and you can play very proficiently, very fast maybe, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great player. I mean, an effective player, because that's not where the heart and soul comes from. It can contribute to, because you need technique to really be able to express yourself. You know, some kind of technique, maybe not a lot, maybe a lot. It's whatever you're interested in. But you have to go through a period where you focus on getting that technique, getting that information. And then something, it's like a great, if you ever watch someone like Tiger Woods play golf, it's extraordinary. I play golf, I suck. But I understand it. My father used to teach me, and it was always keep your head down, keep your eye on the ball, spread your legs like this, follow through. I'm like, how are you supposed to remember all this? And it's like me saying, hold your pick lightly, put it here, make sure every note comes out clean. You know, you can't do it all at once. You have to focus a little bit here on this. And where is all the freedom of expression and all that? There's very little, because you don't have the vessel is not prepared. So you got to work. And then all of a sudden, when you see Tiger Woods swing, he is not thinking of anything. He's not thinking about holding his head down, or I don't believe he is. He's just in the moment. He's totally in the moment of the freedom and the beauty of the freedom that just happens when he swings, because it's like all the moving parts come together, and there's just this connection there. and it's beautiful to watch. Do you ever watch Michael Jordan play basketball? Holy shite, man! He's a freak. It's like I cry. I do. Sometimes I weep because it's so beautiful the way he effortlessly just floats through the air, or and you can find this in all sorts of fields, and that's what you want to be able to do on your instrument, is to have that freedom of expression. This is what I'm talking about when I say something deeper than the technique. So the same thing applies when you're studying composition. You need to study and learn the tools and sharpen your awareness of the tools that are at your disposal. You need to understand the principles of orchestration, of composing, what different instruments can do, what they can't do, their idiosyncrasies, how to get your point across by using articulations, dynamics, time signatures, tempos. All of these things are, at one point, they're an educational necessity in this field of composing. Yes, you have to know these things. They're easy. If you went to school, you can learn this stuff. If you're smart enough to be able to figure out how to use your computer to watch me right now, thousands of miles away in a little box, you can learn how to write a scale and how it works. It's just very simple. But like anything else, if you get carried away in the academics, you can start doing things just to fascinate your own intellect, and there's a place for that. But once you get all the tools, then you need to, then the beauty of being able to express the depth of your inspiration, there's an opening, there's the ability, because now you have the tools, you can bring these instruments together and you can put these harmonies because you know what they're going to feel and sound like, and you can use these dynamics at your disposal as tools, as opposed to, it's the same what I was talking about before, earlier, with how the mind works. If you're completely trapped in thinking, then thinking does not serve you. But if you find the balance of stillness, and when thoughts come, they're more inspired thoughts, and then your mind is a tool for your own creativity. And that's a great place to be, and you can find that balance, strike that balance in anything, as long as you know that there needs to be a balance there. And composing is such a great field because it's just so infinite, the ability to hear things in your head and have all of these instruments and these tools. And as a new composer, if that's what you're interested in doing, don't settle for conventionality. Don't settle. Why? Why should you? Why? That's not what you're here for. You're not here to be conventional. You're here to expand the universe. You're here to take it up a notch. You're here to be creative in your own unique way, which you are capable of doing when you realize you don't have to conform to conventionality. So you can do that on the guitar. You can do it with the way that you make your food. You can do it in your relationships. That's what they mean when they say be yourself. When people say you have to be yourself, what does that mean, be yourself? Well, it means accepting who you are and the things that are interesting to you, the things that excite you, the things that that make you feel creative in a unique way. And then you express them. It could be the clothes you wear, it could be the glasses you wear, it could be the funny faces you make on stage, it could be fill in the blank, But that's being yourself and not being afraid of being yourself, because the rest of the world thinks you should be like them. Okay? So when you are actually in the field of the creative field of composing, what I would say to you, learn the convention, but then break it. You don't need to just use orchestra instruments. Create something new. Everything is at your disposal. You just have to think of it. You have to allow your imagination to think of it. The only limitation is your own imagination, and your own imagination has the potential to be limitless. The only thing stopping it is the stories and the thoughts that you create that obstruct the freedom of your imagination to just flourish and explode, and then the action of expansion by creating what your imagination, the freedom that your imagination has experienced to come. And the reason, because it feels really good and it's fun. It's joyful to feel freedom and to be expressive. And when you look at it, that's what the universe is. The foundation is freedom. You can see that by the way it's expanding, and the action is expansion. And the reason is joy, because whenever you create something that makes you feel like you really did something unique, you feel joy. So enjoy your studies and career as a composer. But if you feel like you need to know music theory because people tell you you need to, I'm telling you that they're wrong. You need to do what's right for you. You need to do what feels right to you. Advice is seldom relished, and if I was to give you advice on music theory, I would say it's probably a good idea to at least know the basics. But you don't have to know the modes or theory. It can help, but you'll only find yourself learning them if you're interested. You're not going to do it if you're not compelled to do it. Matter of fact, you'll make up stories why no one should do it. I've heard that for years, people saying, well, if you learn music, it's going to destroy your creativity. It's going to destroy your ability to be real. I don't know what the fuck that means, you know, except that it's an excuse for somebody that doesn't have any desire to learn music and feels like they need to criticize somebody else. Because whenever you criticize somebody else, what you're really saying is, I'm better than you. My opinion is better. It's right, you're wrong. And that's all there is to it. That's what every criticism is. So, and you'll find that the ego responds to being wrong and has to fight. You don't need to. You just do what you want. Find your freedom. Really, really. I mean, like, really. That's what it's about. There's nothing else. When you find your freedom, miraculous things happen. And freedom is like, people say, well, people might think, well, then I can do anything. I can go and take advantage of other people. I can go rob a bank. I'll steal this because that's what I wanted. That's freedom. No. That's the abuse of freedom. That's a perverted freedom. When you discover real freedom, meaning that you can make the choices without anybody telling you what to do, that you start to respect the freedom of others. You don't intrude on other people's sense of freedom. Because you have it, you know how precious it is, you respect it in others, and you work with them. You start resonating with people in a completely different way. But you won't see it or know it until you feel that freedom. And our society, unfortunately, does not really support true freedom. Not yet. We're not at that phase yet. No, but I don't want to get into that. It's enough. Okay. I think I've talked your computer off. But I enjoy it. So the DVD is out. It's called Stillness in Motion. And the reason why I called it Stillness in Motion, there's a couple of reasons. On one level, because if you look at the space between the notes, which is the bonus footage, there's a tremendous amount of still photos, and thousands of them. And every single one of them I had to import, resize, reduce, then resize, color correct, put in the right order, and it was a tremendous amount of work. But I loved it. And so a lot of that footage is still shots of photos going by very quickly. Drop frame, whatever they call it. But also the deeper meaning for the Stillness in Motion was You know, a lot of the things I talk about that sound esoteric, I'm working on myself. You know, and I don't. You're never there. You know? But when I was talking about finding that space of thoughtless awareness, where the inspiration comes from, that place of relaxed, just simple relaxed awareness. There's peace in that, and there's power. There's intense power. But it's very still. It's just like, you know, if you just stare at me without thinking, but looking very carefully and listening, you're being still, in a sense. Your mind is being still. And out of that ultrazone of awareness, because the deeper it gets, the deeper it gets, action can come. I mean, that's where inspired action comes from. So one of my goals as a performer is to be in that zone and to have action come from it, which would be the inspired performance, the inspired movement. And like I say, I work, this is what I focus on and work on. I'm not entirely there. And that's stillness in motion. Thank you. See you around.